When it comes to speaking in a way no woman can resist, the very first thing you have to understand is this. It's not about the specific phrase or the clever line you use. It's about the confidence behind it. A sentence spoken without belief, without presence, without conviction will always fall flat. But that same sentence, delivered with certainty, with calm authority, with confidence in who you are, suddenly carries weight. Women don't just listen to the words, they feel the energy behind them, and confidence is the invisible force that makes even the simplest words magnetic. Think about it. Two men can say the exact same thing. One man, nervous and unsure, with shaky eye contact and a hesitant tone, will be ignored, even if his words are nice. But the other man, standing tall, speaking calmly, with steady eyes and no rush in his voice, can say the exact same line, and suddenly she's leaning in, curious, engaged, and attracted. What's the difference? Confidence. Confidence transforms ordinary words into irresistible ones. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not puffing out your chest, raising your voice, or trying to prove something. True confidence is quiet strength. It's the calm assurance that you don't need approval, that you don't need validation, that you are already enough. When you speak from that place, every word you say lands differently. A simple, "I like the way you carry yourself," or "I enjoy being around you," becomes powerful not because of the words themselves, but because of the energy behind them. And here's what most men don't realize: confidence can't be faked for long. You might be able to put on a front for a few minutes, but if underneath you're still seeking her approval, if underneath you're still afraid of rejection, it will show. Women have a natural ability to sense insecurity. That's why building true confidence from within matters. You build it by knowing your value, by standing firm in your boundaries, by focusing on your growth and your purpose. When your life is full, when you have direction, when you are living in alignment with your standards, confidence flows naturally. Confidence also shows up in your delivery. When you speak with pauses, when you don't rush to fill silence, when you let your words breathe, it demonstrates control. Nervous men ramble, over-explain, and talk too fast, hoping their words will impress. Confident men say less, but every word counts. Silence doesn't scare them because they don't need constant approval. That's what draws women in. Your ability to be comfortable in your own skin, even in moments where nothing is said. Another thing confidence does is create trust. Women are drawn to men they can feel secure around. When you speak confidently, it signals that you can handle yourself, that you can handle pressure, that you can handle life. That's irresistible. She may not consciously think, "Wow, his confidence makes me feel safe," but she feels it. She feels that calm strength, and that's what allows her to relax and open up. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine you speak with shaky energy, with the hope that she'll like what you say. What message does that send? It says, "My worth depends on your reaction." And the moment a woman senses that, she loses attraction, because no one is drawn to someone who doesn't believe in themselves. Your words must come from a place of already knowing your worth, whether she accepts them or not. That's the secret. The truth is, confidence is what makes your words irresistible because it changes the frame. Instead of you trying to impress her, it becomes her trying to figure you out, her leaning in to feel more of your energy. Your words are no longer a performance. They become an extension of who you are. That's why the first and most important step is not memorizing lines, not chasing techniques, but cultivating real confidence that can't be shaken by anyone. Because when you say something with that kind of energy, you don't need to repeat it, you don't need to explain it, and you don't need to hope it lands. It will land, it will resonate, and it will be remembered. That's the difference confidence makes. It turns your words into something she cannot ignore. The second key to saying something no woman can resist lies in speaking value, not desperation. Too many men fall into the trap of using words as a tool to seek validation. They think if they shower a woman with compliments, if they tell her everything she wants to hear, if they pour out endless attention, she'll finally notice them, respect them, and maybe even love them. But the truth is, words spoken from desperation carry no power. They reveal neediness, and neediness is the quickest way to kill attraction. What women respond to is value, and value doesn't mean money, status, or possessions. Value means self-respect, standards, and the ability to uplift others without losing yourself. When your words reflect strength, when they carry substance, when they come from a man who is whole on his own, they naturally have weight. Women are not drawn to words that beg for approval. They are drawn to words that affirm reality with confidence and integrity. Think about the difference between these two approaches. One man says, "Please give me another chance. I can change. I'll do anything you want." His tone is pleading, his posture submissive, his energy desperate. The words might sound sweet, but what they really communicate is weakness. He is giving away his power in hopes of being chosen. Another man, however, might say, "I respect you, but I'm not going to beg for anyone's attention. I know my worth." Those words are not begging, they are not seeking approval, they are setting a tone of value, and that difference creates attraction. Speaking value also means you communicate in a way that uplifts without overcompensating. Instead of saying, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, no one compares to you," which sounds like flattery born out of desperation, you might say, "You have an energy about you that's rare, and I respect that." Notice the difference. One is over the top, trying to buy affection with words, while the other is calm, intentional, and rooted in strength. It's not about trying to convince her of her worth. It's about noticing something real and acknowledging it with confidence. When you speak value, you are not just giving compliments, you're expressing standards. You're letting her know what you admire, but you're also showing that you don't throw your admiration around carelessly. That's why the same compliment from two different men lands differently. A man with no standards, who says it to every woman, is ignored. But a man who rarely expresses admiration, who says it with conviction and clarity, suddenly makes it feel special. His words are valuable because they are rare, because they come from a place of discernment, not desperation. The reason this works is because women want to feel chosen, but not by someone who would choose anyone. They want to feel valued by a man who values himself first. So when you speak with value, you communicate two things at once. You recognize her uniqueness, and you show that you have the strength not to give that recognition away cheaply. That balance creates an irresistible tension. Now, some men make the mistake of thinking that speaking value means withholding everything or being cold and distant. That's not the point either. Speaking value is not about manipulation. It's about authenticity. It's about speaking from a place of fullness, not emptiness. It's about being a man who doesn't need her validation, but enjoys sharing his perspective. That's what makes your words attractive. You don't need to say them, but you choose to, and that choice comes from abundance, not desperation. So the next time you're tempted to over-explain, overpraise, or overgive with your words, stop and ask yourself, am I saying this to seek approval, or am I saying this because it reflects my truth and my standards? If it's the first, it will weaken you. If it's the second, it will make you magnetic. Because words rooted in desperation are forgettable, but words rooted in value are unforgettable. And that's why speaking value, not desperation, is one of the most powerful things a man can do. When it comes to saying something that no woman can resist, one of the most overlooked yet powerful elements is the ability to communicate boundaries through your words. Boundaries are not about being harsh, controlling, or rigid. They are about expressing self-respect. And when a man shows, through his words, that he has standards and won't compromise them just to please someone else, he immediately becomes more attractive. Women may not admit it openly, but they are drawn to men who have the courage to stand firm on what they will and won't tolerate. Most men, out of fear of losing a woman or fear of upsetting her, hesitate to speak their truth. They bend over backwards, they say yes when they want to say no, and they stay silent when they should speak up. They think that agreeing all the time will win affection, but in reality, it only breeds disrespect. A woman cannot fully respect a man who refuses to respect himself. That's why words that communicate boundaries are not just powerful, they are essential. For example, imagine a man who says, "I don't allow disrespect in my life, no matter who it comes from." That's not arrogant. That's not rude. That's clarity. And it tells a woman that he is a man who knows his worth, a man who values peace over chaos, a man who refuses to compromise his dignity just for attention. That statement alone separates him from men who stay silent, tolerate mistreatment, and then wonder why they're not valued. Words that set boundaries don't always have to be confrontational. They can be calm, steady, and firm, yet still carry a powerful impact. A man might say, "I appreciate honesty. If I don't get it, I won't stay." Notice how simple that is. There's no anger, no over-explaining, just a boundary wrapped in strength. It's a statement that communicates both what he values and what he won't accept. Women hear that and feel an immediate shift because deep down, they know such a man cannot be easily controlled or manipulated. Now, some men misunderstand boundaries as ultimatums or threats, but that's not the point. Boundaries are not about controlling someone else. They are about controlling yourself. They are about deciding what you will do if certain behavior is crossed. When you communicate them clearly, you show her that you are not afraid to walk away if your standards are violated. And nothing is more magnetic than a man who is not afraid to lose her because he refuses to lose himself. Boundaries in words also create attraction because they bring clarity. Many women test men not necessarily to hurt them, but to see what kind of man they really are. If a man folds every time, she knows he has no backbone. But if he calmly holds his ground, she feels his strength, even if she doesn't agree in the moment. A man who commands respect. And when your words reflect that, they become irresistible. Because women don't just want a man who makes them feel good. They want a man they can look up to, a man they can respect. And that respect is born the moment you use your words to show that you respect yourself first. Sometimes the most powerful thing a man can say is not a long speech, not a carefully crafted explanation, not a dozen paragraphs trying to justify himself, but a few words spoken with confidence. Certainty, simplicity has a strength that most people underestimate. In fact, the fewer words you use, the more weight each one carries. Women are naturally tuned to emotion and energy, and when your words are short, deliberate, and filled with conviction, they hit harder than 1,000 sentences strung together. That's why less is often more when it comes to communicating in a way that no woman can resist. Think about it. When a man starts over-explaining, apologizing too much, or trying to impress with long speeches, he actually dilutes his own power. His words start sounding like noise, and the more he talks, the less impactful he becomes. On the other hand, when a man speaks with brevity, when he chooses words that cut straight to the point, he commands attention. A simple, confident phrase like "I respect myself too much for that," or "that doesn't work for me," will echo in her mind far longer than 10 minutes of rambling explanations. Because it's not just the words themselves, it's the energy of certainty behind them. Another reason fewer words are so impactful is because they create mystery. When you don't spill everything out, when you don't explain every detail, you leave room for her imagination to fill in the blanks. And imagination is powerful. It makes her wonder, it makes her think, and it makes her feel drawn to you. Mystery is magnetic. By not over-talking, by choosing to say less, you create a presence that feels confident and composed. It shows you're not desperate to be understood, you're not scrambling for approval, and you're not afraid of silence. And silence, when used correctly, can be louder than any words. Now, some men fear silence because they think it will make them seem uninterested or cold. But the truth is, silence paired with the right short phrase can be incredibly attractive. Imagine this: she pushes your buttons, tries to get a reaction, and instead of arguing or justifying, you calmly say, "I don't play those games," and then let the silence sit. That silence works in your favor. It forces her to reflect, it shows you're unmoved, and it makes your words sink in. That moment becomes unforgettable because you didn't dilute your message with over-explaining. This is why men who know how to keep their words short and sharp are seen as strong. They don't waste energy trying to convince or beg. They don't feel the need to explain themselves into exhaustion. They know their value, and because of that, their words have a presence that is undeniable. Women feel it. They respect it, and often they're pulled toward it, because a man who doesn't overspeak feels in control, grounded, and rare. You see, it's not about saying everything. It's about saying the right thing, and saying it with certainty. I know what I want. That's not for me. I'm good with or without it. These simple, clear statements cut through the noise. They communicate confidence, boundaries, and strength all at once. And more importantly, they're believable because they're not hidden behind endless words. The irony is that the men who talk the most often say the least, while the men who talk the least often say the most. Because when you don't flood a woman with words, each phrase feels intentional, each word feels heavier, and each silence feels loaded with meaning. That is what makes her listen. That is what makes her remember. And that is what makes her unable to resist. So when it comes to saying something no woman can resist, remember this: it's not about crafting long speeches, it's about mastering the art of less. A few words spoken with strength, certainty, and calm will do more than 1,000 sentences ever could. And sometimes, the most irresistible thing you can say is the thing you say the least.